what is culture and why does it matter. Yeah, so we can distinguish into the facts or artifacts that are above the surface level, that are visible, that you can easily see. So in terms of maybe clothing, what kind of clothing you wear. Here we are in Germany, and German business professors, very often they wear very formal clothing. Yeah? They wear a suit. If you go to Australia, have you been study abroad in Australia? I haven't, but I know my friends. One is Brad. He likes to surf and he wears his flip-flops and go to his lecture hall and wear a t-shirt and shorts and say, hey, and talk very easy. If I would do this in Göttingen, probably you would think I'm crazy. Or I don't know, maybe you, I don't think you, that would be somewhat strange for some of you because it's a different culture. So in Germany, also in Korea, where I'm also from, professors in business, they wear rather formal attire, also in business context. That's very visible. Language also very visible. What we speak, you can hear. So I mean, you can see or hear like easily that's a certain culture. Or here in Göttingen area or Hanover, they say we speak Hochdeutsch, plain German language. If you go to Bavaria, what your classmate mentioned, they speak Bavarian accent. Or not all, but some of them stronger to weaker extent. Food, what kind of food, and so forth. These are all very visible traits. And that's also very often how we easily say, oh yeah, black hair, no, from wearing this kind of clothes, she is this and that, and belongs to this and that culture. I mean, that helps to easily identify members of certain groups and cultures, but at the same time, it's only surface level, it's superficial. We can easily see, but it doesn't have so much an influence on doing business or interaction between individuals. What is probably much more important are the things that we cannot so easily see, such as your classmate also mentioned, values, beliefs, attitudes, or what is important. And however, if you do business or you manage people, that becomes much more important over time. So the first time it's also, oh yeah, look at each other, this and that culture, maybe we would induce, but how we then work together, over time we really see what is beneath the surface. And the analogy why I like here is, probably you know an iceberg, you can only see the tip of the iceberg if you're on a ship. Remember Titanic. Titanic also crashed with an iceberg because they could only see a tiny bit of the iceberg. But what is more important is, and what is much bigger, is the part below the surface. So values, all these aspects of culture, they become more important in interactions and also in business, the more intensive your interaction is. So the next very important question is, why do we even care about culture? It's all the soft matters that should not bother us. But the point is here, culture has very profound effects on almost all aspects in life. And here I have just some ideas. Economic growth. There has been also several studies that show that the cultural values that are prevalent in certain countries drive economic growth rates. In Europe and so forth, it was highly related with Protestant work ethics. People are willing to work. Or in Asia, this hard-working motivation and willingness to work was also a major contributor to economic growth. And that has been tested, all kinds of data has been entered, and has been validated. Or we can also see political movement. As people in developing countries in particular, they become more individualistic, and then they demand democracy rights. We have seen that in many particular Western societies. We may also see that in some other countries, and then how the values of people shape policy making in the long run. Communication styles, I think that's probably also very obvious. Some of you who have studied abroad, travel abroad, very easily you see, oh yeah, he, she is from a different country, and yeah, okay, first they talk a different language, but not only the language is different, but also the way how they think, how assertive they are, is quite different. One example would be also English language. In the US, English is rather assertive, very direct, and do this, do that, can you, blah, blah. And in the UK, they're very polite, and if they bump into each other, everyone says, oh, I'm so sorry. And in Germany, no, you don't say, hey, make way or something else, but they're very polite. The way they communicate is very different. Yeah, and that is also manifest in language, and also language manifests itself then in culture. Negotiation style is not really the main topic of this course, yeah, but it could also be if you negotiate for pay, how you express yourself, yeah, that's very strongly influenced by culture. To give the example, in Japan, it's a very modest, very humble society. People would not demand for pay rise, yeah, not so openly. Yeah, but I think we talked about this also before here. Yeah, in other countries, yeah, in America or Germany, you would be very explicit. Hey, I did this and that. I did very well, so I deserve a pay rise. Yeah, and that's also then how you would negotiate pay, yeah, or other aspects. Behavior. Yeah, I think how people behave, what people do, is very much dependent also on their culture. Yeah, that you can observe. And I think now what is more interesting to us would be HR practices. I have some examples for that in a second. And then also work motivation. We have individual differences. Yeah, but at the same time, we can also see trends, difference across countries. So very common in Germany, but also in Scandinavia, at least they say so, and based on surveys, they want more like your classmates, more free time, leisure time, time for hobbies and so forth. Yeah, and then we have other countries, China, Korea, they prefer monetary incentives, financial rewards. Yeah, it differs across countries. But of course, not everyone is the same, yeah, as we even found out here. Yeah, but by and large, we can see quite substantial difference across countries. Yeah, and that means, of course, also then for companies operating in different countries, they may consider how to adjust to the different needs, the different culture, if they want to appeal and motivate people. And that would be important. And HRM practice, I think that comes in a second. First, in general, culture, why it matters. Culture is different. People are different and also differ by country. And then nowadays, very often, people work in teams, in international teams, international project teams. Could be you work for Sartorius, a Göttingen-based company, and you will be working with colleagues from different countries. On-site in Göttingen, or maybe also virtually, connected through different teams with different countries, or you may go abroad. And that can be very stimulating, inspiring, yeah, but also can be challenging because of culture differences. Another aspect would be here, as I already indicated before, culture difference is different, and how do companies deal with that? Do they offer one size fits all, so one type of compensation package or benefit package to everyone in all the countries, or to what extent do they adjust, modify to the different countries? And all that is very important to understand the different cultures, to manage global talent, particularly considering you have an organization, a multinational enterprise that operates in different countries and also that manage people from different countries. And that is commonly happening in any large company. Think of BMW, Volkswagen, or even our local companies such as Sartorius, or also our University of Göttingen, where we see quite some diversity of people, diversity of cultures. So to consider that, maybe adapt to some extent, or people need to adapt, and that's one aspect. And the next step, one step even further, is not just to consider, but trying to leverage diversity, because that can be really an advantage. Nowadays, we're living in a knowledge-based economy, creating new knowledge, creating innovations. BioNTech, I think we talked about that yesterday. It's a completely new innovation. What really helps is also then to leverage the knowledge from different people from different countries and really then come up. Because BioNTech, eventually also the rollout, they teamed up with Pfizer, American company, and that also greatly helped to pool resources and to roll out quickly in different markets. All right, I think that's the idea in general. What is culture? And culture is important in general for business, but also more specifically for human resource management. So take the example here of the US and Japan, two of the leading business nations, economic powerhouses. At some point, US and Japan were the dominating forces in the world. Japan, we would say probably from the 80s until the 90s, was the role model, the growth engine. And then the US probably from the 90s until the 2010s. Nowadays they're still important, but probably not the benchmark as it used to be. So in terms of planning, how you plan your resources and so forth, we have very stark contrast. America, short-term planning, quarterly basis, and also reporting, management, numbers tied to performance and so forth, in contrast to Japan. So when I worked as a management consultant in Japan, they created business plans and strategic plans 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into the future. You would not do this with American companies, rather like more tied to quarterly or annual or at most medium-term goals. Employment contracts are very relevant for human resource management. We have also a major difference. That's related also to the time horizon. You have short-term horizons, you're very flexible, you adjust differently. Here you don't plan so much in advance, whereas in Japan, there's some kind of lifetime employment. Not to everyone. There's only a limited number of core permanent employees who then enjoy lifetime employment. And in terms of promotion, in Japan it's long-term, it's seniority-based. The longer you work for the company, you advance, you move up. Not automatically, of course, but to a certain level, everyone does advance, but later on, based on performance, but to much less extent. In the US, many of the US companies you may know, up or out. Infamous consulting companies such as McKinsey. In 6 years, you can become partner. Or you will be kicked out after 3 months. That's also the flip side of that story. So there's based on performance. Regardless of age, seniority, you can move up very quickly. Organizational culture related to it is very meritocratic, so based on performance. Fairly flat, flat hierarchies regardless of age. What is driving is very often performance. Whereas in Japan it would be much more group-oriented, collectivistic and bureaucratic.